We're live from our studio here in Kukumlimli on digital address GA0992539. My name is Gifty Andopia. Top stories this hour. 3 police officers interdicted for secretly burying a man they allegedly brutalized to death in the Bono region. We go live to the area. And police investigators wrap up a detailed deconstruction of how a 10-year-old boy was allegedly killed by 2 teenagers at Kaswa Lamte. We have more as the crime scene experts have spent days taking notes on how the teenagers lured the boy to his death. Also, Ghana Boundary Commission overwhelmed with calls from regional ministers and DCEs to settle boundary dispute after JoyNews highlighted the commission's work at the Togo border yesterday. Those are top stories this hour. Remember, we're on DSTV 421, Go TV 144, and on our social media handles. My name is Gifty Andopia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Let me take you through the details of those stories now. The Bono Regional Police Command has interdicted 3 officers at the Sekwa police station for their alleged involvement in brutalizing a 48-year-old man, Abu Nepal, to death. The officers in question after the crime also secretly buried the deceased. He was 48 years old and was in police custody for smashing the windscreen of a vehicle belonging to the manager of the Nkraman Rural Bank. Let's get on the phone lines. On Zoom now, my colleague Precious Semevo is our correspondent and is joining me with details. Precious, what more do we know? Where is the case at the moment? I've just lost Precious Semevo there. I'm going to try and raise him back on the line so we get to know a bit more of this information that we're gathering, that some police officers have allegedly brutalized somebody in their custody, leading to his death, after which they buried him. Well, we're told that this afternoon those police officers have been interdicted, and our correspondent Precious Semevo is to join us with details. Well, let's try him on the phone right now. Precious, what has become of this case? Let's start from there. What is happening right now, the current state of this matter?
Well, so you see currently what has become of the case, at least according to the police, the Bono Regional Crime Officer, is that all the people involved, particularly the 3 police officers, they have all been interdicted whilst they continue investigation. But they are also on the heels of the chief linguist who has aided the burial and then the exhumation of late Abu Abubakar in Nepal, which on Saturday just gone by. Now, what actually happened, as we've been told by the crime officer, is that this man, Abu Abubakar in Nepal, is alleged to have smashed the windscreen of a bank manager, a rural bank manager, Emmanuel Opoyi. And the ensuing misunderstanding resulted in him being beaten by the security personnel of this rural bank at Nkraman in Sekwa. Now, instead of taking medical care for him, he was rather taken to the police station, and there too we are told that he was tied or handcuffed to a tree at the police station until they realized that his condition had deteriorated. And before they got to the Sekwa hospital, he had passed on. And again, instead of them, that is the police involved, trying to report the case for the due process to follow, early morning Saturday, that was 17th of this month, April, they tried to bury him secretly. And the people that they contacted to assist them do this burial did not actually agree. And they brought this issue into the limelight. And that is what happened. So for these people who were, their assistance was sought to bury this person, wouldn't have feared this case at all. So the town folks started agitating and started raising alarm and all that. They realized that the issue was getting out of hand, and they had to go back and then exhume this person and send him to a mortuary at Mantupa on the Sunyani-Bekum stretch, the Sunyani-Bekum road. Until the police got involved, the police hierarchy has taken over the case, And as we understand, the three officers, the station officer in particular, that he has been, called Eric Apollo is the station officer together with William Apusingi and then Ebenezer Ekufu. They have been interdicted to assist in investigation. We know that the bank manager, the family, relatives, and all those people involved have been invited to Sunyani, the Bono Regional Capital, that is the police headquarters, to assist in investigation. But the family obviously is not happy about the situation. They even describe it as barbaric and unacceptable for the police to be involved in this heinous activity. And they are appealing to all the bodies, particularly the security agencies, to ensure that though these people involved is one of them, they should ensure that justice is not denied their relatives.
I don't know what the police service has been telling the family members of this gentleman. Have they been telling them anything?
Well, according to the police, they have met they have invited the family relatives to Nyani because now the case has been transferred to the regional police headquarters. And they will assist them to go on with the investigation. But the crime officer particularly told me some few hours ago that we are in a modern dispensation where the rights of every human being needs to be protected. And they are going to ensure that the rights of Abubakar Inepa, who was killed and then buried later exhumed and now at the morgue, they will ensure that all those people involved in this act will be brought to book, regardless of the fact that the three people at the forefront are police officials. They are assuring the family that they will do everything within their means to seek justice for Abubakar.
Precious, hang on and let's listen to the family members and then we'll continue the conversation. Well, like Precious said, the family members of this gentleman who has died, who has been identified as Abu Nepa, have described the behavior of the police officers as barbaric and unacceptable.
Pacho, didn't you yaka busiana kasa police for na kunu dia e kunu say. If you can yabusiano kwa, oma muhuye, didn't you kasa abusiano kasa police for na kunu no say. Nipa se eso abaka ahwehwe se ka ahwehwe na waba adentina obedi mu nsam adechi a no wawu na mo akasan kosan kosie no se enyamo a na ho ha na akunu enenti na abusia na kase emu police for no na akunu asama e wo ho no because enyamo na moku na se dihia bi ba wu mu nsam ana so ofiri ba bi kwa na obeto ho no wu mu nsam a adenti na mo mfa na ntiba bi na mo mpa na abusia fo adanse dia yenya no se yekọ se akọ no a se yekọ hwese meti se o machi na mekọ ya nkọ hwese o mochi no duru ho no na kurom ho no boys na omuhu se mokosie no no mo ama meditis ma meditis ne nyina na kire se mo ama videos bibia batama omuzo mochi ne de omuhu ye but muku na mokosie ne de omahu bibia enenti ena ye ne mede nyangena so onya bibia hu se omo anaku no because anya wo na woku na adenti ana mo makosie no anajo Saturday anajo makosie no adachi Sunday anopa muti se abusia no ate se omo ache omo de hye wose kwa mudi medika eba yedi medika eba duru ho na moto amu na akọ yakọ na ani hu hwe ansankora yehu anya hu videos yehu ba bi yakọ hwe ba bi musie ni na sankutu yeso aya expect na ka hu sana akoye so nyakwa no so ho na ewo ofiri ho a na wo kọ simwane mo chiri bi wo yakọ no oda ho ampa.
So that's a family member of this gentleman, Nepal, Abu Nepal, who has died. I want you to just break it down for our viewers. Precious, what he says, let's summarize that for our viewers who cannot understand the Chi language.
Yes. So basically, he is saying that they have the strong conviction that the police and then the security at the bank, that is in Kraman Rural Bank, are the very people who killed their relative. and they are basing their conviction on the fact that if they are not involved leading to the killing, the death of their relative, they wouldn't have tried burying him, or they wouldn't have buried him secretly in the night. If he is alleged to have smashed a windscreen, there are processes to go through, but not to beat him, leading to his death. And they are appealing to authorities to ensure that justice is given to their relatives. But Gifty, aside that, information that we are picking this afternoon indicates that security has been beefed up in Serpa to ensure that no one or group of people would want to, come up and take the law into their own hands. So there's massive police visibility in Serpa as we understand today.
Massive police visibility. You've been speaking to the police in the Bono region as well. What do they tell you?
Relative to the security in Serpa now?
Yes.
Yes, so they are saying that, yes, the incident has happened, the investigation is ongoing. They are inviting all suspected people, all people who could provide information that will help them conclude investigation leading to the arrest of the culprit. And also the fact that the chief linguist in Serpa, Openin Kakare Estraman II, who we understand that is on the run, they are trying to pursue him, but they want the public to remain calm and assist them in investigation with assurance that they will get to the bottom of this.
This gentleman who has died, I just want to talk a bit about him, but the Bono Regional Crime Officer of the Police Service, Superintendent Kennedy Duse, has described the action by the police officers, or the alleged action by the police officers, as regrettable. And he says that the matter is being investigated, as you said. Let's hear him, and then when we come back, Precious, we'll talk about this gentleman who has died. Who is he? Listen to the police officer.
There are a lot of there are people involved. I've mentioned Abby, I've mentioned Obin. So please, once we are here, I think updates will be given in due course. Let's make sure we do everything right to make sure justice prevails. Because this is an era of human rights. And we will not sit down for any human being to sit on anyone's fundamental human rights. No. We will do our possible best and make sure justice prevails. We should have known better by preserving the body at the mortuary for autopsy. The here of the case, the opposite happened. To him, one opening a suman, the second, the Achamehene of Sefa, together with other boys, assisted him, had a place, dug a grave, and buried him. In that, he's a pauper, and that keeping him at the mortuary will be a burden on them. But we are Ghanians. Even a mad person sleeping on a bola have relatives. So rumors went around. And when they realized that things were getting hot, they went back, exhumed this body, and sent it back to the mortuary. In fact, when the regional commander heard this, he didn't take it lightly. He tasked me and my men to go and do our in-depth investigation at that village. We are still investigating the matter. Per the instructions received, all those who are involved in the case or who contributed one way or the other to this heinous crime have been tasked to bring all of them to Sunyani, and we did so yesterday, and investigations is ongoing. I think that is the brief accounts. What we do, because whenever such an incident occurs, if you allow the fellow to be at post, one way or the other, it will interfere with the ongoing investigations. So,
and that's the Bono Regional Crime Officer for the Ghana Police Service, Superintendent Kennedy Edusei there. Precious, let's talk about this gentleman. Like he said, people know people in the community. Who is this guy? What do we know about him at this point?
Well, not much as of now, but we know that he is 48 years and he is a farmer. And if you go to the community, the information we are taking from the community is that it is believed or suspected that he is not all that rational. But that's notwithstanding, as the police crime officer rightly said, regardless of his state, he has family and needs to be accorded with some dignity and then some rights to be accorded him. So very little is none of him, but he's in the community very calm, as we are told, that he goes about his normal duties. It is not clear what might have triggered or sparked him smashing the windscreen of the rural bank manager for them to have also, rained beatings on him.
Finally, in the pictures that we're showing on the television right now, Precious, we see three men holding something that looks like a body in a body bag. Who are these people? Was this when the body was exhumed?
Exactly. So when the youth finally got wind of it and then started charging, and then them sensing danger decided to go to the where they buried him and then exhumed him. So what you are seeing is the people who buried him, that is some of the police officials, and they are accomplices, carrying the dead body as has been covered in that black polythene. So
somebody standing somewhere saw these people carrying this body and they took pictures and sent it around, which is how come we got to know about this.
Yeah, so when they were going to do the exhumation, after that time, a section of the community had gotten wind of it. So some of them, we are told, got to the scene and decided to take, short pictures and then videos. Clearly, if you see the pictures and some of the videos, it is not of someone who is comfortably taking a picture or a video. These are secret images that were taken by some people who were present during the exhumation of the body.
I see. Precious, thank you very much for the updates. We'll look forward to getting more development on this story. Precious Emevo is our correspondent for the Bono region there. Police investigators today wrapped up a detailed reconstruction of how the 10-year-old boy Ishmael was allegedly killed by the two teenagers standing trial at Kaswa Lamte. Ishmael Mensa Abdallah was killed on Saturday, April 3, by the two suspects, Felix Nyakon, 16, and Nicholas Kiki, now 18. Now being told, as we're now being told, is 18. They told the police after their arrest that a spiritualist demanded a human being as well as 5,000 cedis in exchange for more money. Crime scene experts have spent days taking notes on how the teenagers said they lured the boy to his death and the subsequent attempt to bury his remains. The teenagers are currently facing the charge of murder. Joseph Akable was at the home of Ishmael. Here is his report.
It's Friday afternoon and a crack team of crime scene experts are busily gathering evidence. It's the scene of the gruesome murder of a 10-year-old boy, which investigators believe was for money rituals. Their goal is to reconstruct in detail how the boy was lured to the crime scene, which is actually a few meters away from his home.
Since the incident happened, as far as we know, this would be the second time. On Tuesday after the court, they rushed the boy. They brought the boys here, and our understanding was that they were going to do simulation, so the boys could reenact how the incident happened, how they carried out the dastardly act. And according to the police on that day, when I questioned them what they came to do, they said they didn't see the parent, or they couldn't get the parent of one of the boys whose age is being debatable now, whether 16 or above, and because to them the fellow is a minor or a potential minor, they needed the consent of a parent. And so anytime they will get the consent of the boy's parent, they will come and do that exercise. So my understanding is that once they came to do that today, it would presuppose that they got the parents' consent.
They wrap up the investigations after hours and move from the scene of the crime. The family of the boy remain troubled as they receive visitors. The National Council of Catholic Women are their visitors for today. Perpetual Opon is president.
We are thanking them in the name of God that the path that they took, the peace way, they chose the peace way, and waiting for the law to take its course. We are very, very grateful to them. And the good Lord will replace Ishmael. Ishmael is a sacrificial lamb. That to open our eyes, especially women, there are so many social evils going on, all in the name of amassing wealth. 16-year-old boy, 15-year-old, what are you going to do with money? Billions, what are you going to do with that? What is it for? But sometimes the good Lord let something happen. The good Lord allowed this thing to happen to Ishmael as a sacrifice. And then, so that we will open our eyes and change. The change should come from us. The change should come from us. So let us all take this issue and take it that vengeance is God. But then through it, God has sent us to speak to the whole nation, to speak to our environment, the people, the youth there, not to allow them to do whatever they like. After all, who born you by mistake?
The families say it is indeed a tough time for them. They, however, remain hopeful. Samed Akalu is spokesperson.
Yes, indeed, it has been a tragic moment for the family. No parent or family would ever wish, not even to your enemy, for such a dastardly act to happen. It has happened. For us as Muslims, we believe that whatever will happen is determined by Allah before it could happen on earth. And so we say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. From God we come, and in the same God will go one day. No one knows when you go and how you go. And so it is a reason that we have not taken the law into our own hands. We believe that Ghana is anchored by the rule of law. And that is why you saw the police continuously doing their investigations to ensure that the truth will prevail. So for us as a family, we cannot talk much. We are more than grateful. Aside from your time, your effort, the risks, all of you converging from other parts of the country to just come to this family, we think that it's only God who will reward you from all the things you may have lost in terms of time, resources to visit us, and to have even spent some amount of money and material to donate to the family. We cannot ask for more. We will say, God bless you.
Joseph Akable filed that report. It has taken 3 days after lawyers for Ikuapem Polo secured a bail for her for the actress to regain her freedom. Her lawyer, Andrew Vortia, explained this was due to the bureaucratic processes they had to follow to be able to secure her release. Today, the actress was sent to High Court to finalize her bail processes before being taken back to Nsawam to sign out. Kwekwa Sante has the rest of the story.
3 days after a High Court granted her bail, Akuapem Polo has regained her freedom, at least temporarily, after she fully satisfied the bail conditions as set out by the Criminal Division of the Accra High Court. She had one last thing to do after signing documents in court Friday morning, that was to return to Nsawam prison and sign out, then return home to be with her 7-year-old son. According to her lawyer, Andrew Votia, her client has grown slim and pale and has been in very low spirits, having spent at least 2 days in jail after she was convicted.
I consider her spirit is still very, very low. She appears very slim, pale. Yeah, but having seen the part of the family, seeing the lawyer, at least I believe that by this time her spirit is getting up.
Andrew Votia added that the actress is amazed and grateful for all the support she has received from the public since her incarceration.
She's amazed. She was like, wow, so I have the good people of Ghana supporting my cause like this. She realized that more people are supporting her than those that are not supporting her. So it's like I see those supporting her in the majority. Yeah.
Mr. Votia explained that he had taken 3 days to fully process her bail because of the bureaucratic processes they had to navigate to secure the freedom of the actress.
On the day we served the police with a motion for bail pending appeal, apparently they were already on the way to Nsawam, where we were arguing out our bail at the court. So having secured the bail, we have to draw the order and have it served on the police, as well as Director of Prisons. So that was done. So it took, this bureaucratic system, it took some time before the order got to them. And now everything has been finalized. This morning, she just signed the bail. And as we speak, she has regained her freedom amid temporary.
The appeal process has officially not commenced, but lawyer for Akuapem Polo says they are ready when the state is ready.
We have filed an appeal, canvassing all the points, that authorities, cases that we are going to rely on, written our address in full. So we don't have anything to do again. We only have to sit down, wait for them to serve us hearing notice and to give us the date for the appeal proper.
Kwekwa Sante filed that report. You're watching The Pause. I'm Gifty Andopia. I want to take a very quick break. When we return, we have more stories for you. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the Ghana Boundary Commission says it is overwhelmed with calls from regional ministers and district chief executives to settle boundary disputes after JoyNews highlighted the Commission's work at the Togo border yesterday. On Thursday, the Commission began a community sensitization of residents living in border communities to help protect the pillars and other markings signifying Ghana's territorial sovereignty. Here is a report that I put together during the tour with the Commission, with which the Commission focused on harmoniously settling matters concerning Ghana's boundaries with its neighbors in Togo. The Ghana Boundary Commission is an organization set up to deal with issues arising from Ghana's boundaries with its neighbors. Although the law governing the organization was passed, operationalization of the Commission to deal with boundary issues between Ghana and its neighbors happened at the latter part of last year. Ghana's maritime boundary dispute with Ivory Coast, which started in 2010 and ended up in court, is one of the situations the Commission is hoping to avoid by clearing out the blurred lines starting with the land boundaries. The Ghana Boundary Commission is an organization set up to deal with issues arising from Ghana's boundaries with its neighbors. Although the law governing the organization was passed, operationalization of the Commission to deal with boundary issues between Ghana and its neighbors happened at the latter part of last year. Ghana's maritime boundary dispute with Ivory Coast, which started in 2010 and ended up in court, is one of the situations the Commission is hoping to avoid by clearing out the blurred lines, starting with the land boundaries. Brigadier General Emmanuel Kotia is the national coordinator.
We are responsible for ensuring that our land boundaries are secured, the pillars are also well placed and they are not disturbed. And for that matter, we are also responsible for ensuring that our land boundaries are not tampered with, and that the border committees within the various district security councils should be very proactive in identifying some of these challenges.
For about 2 days, his men have been on the ground, along with Immigration and National Investigation Bureau officers, gathering data that will guide the Commission's engagement with its Togolese counterparts. Today, they have just finished briefing him and are taking us to review their findings on the ground. This is the gate that separates two countries. With COVID-19, thoroughfare is not allowed for now. This is one of the pillars meant to show when Ghana's territorial sovereignty ends with Togo. It is lying on its side across the stream instead of being rooted in the ground. Brigadier General Kotia and his men suspect this may have been caused by erosion or other natural causes, but they want to look further to determine whether or not it was a deliberate attempt by anyone to tamper with the demarcations. One of his men explains.
So the exact location of the pillar would have to be determined by the surveyors using their instrument to determine the coordinates. But we pick the current coordinates of where the pillar is lying, and then we'll forward it to them for them to also do the assessment. Then if there's any follow-up survey activities, then we can come back and then confirm the exact locations. Where we are standing in Togolese territory, per the demarcations on the original map of 1972.
A long walk will bring us to another pillar with an inscription to the left, BT, meaning British Togoland, and another to the right, TF, with an arrow in between showing which country owns which side. This is the point of separation of two countries, and without these pillars, each country may lay claim to the entire area, and that can create chaos.
And that one identifies the international boundary line. So it's part of our efforts in conducting an audit so far as the boundaries of our countries are concerned. But the priority we have set for ourselves now is to make an audit of the problem areas before we go into other areas that there are no controversies. That is the reason why we've selected this area as one of the key areas that we have come to do an audit.
So, an audit like this cannot be done by Ghana alone. There was representation from security agencies in Togo.
We do this in collaboration with the various security agencies who are responsible for security along the borders of the country, the local authorities. You have seen the district chief executive here, the cooperation of them, and then with even our counterparts in Togo. So you have seen the gendarmerie officer who has been sent in to support us so far as this audit is concerned. Yeah, so that is a collaboration that we are doing, and it's important for you to get an understanding that it's supposed to be done amicably so that there will continue to be a peaceful coexistence between Ghana and Togo, and especially our people living along the international boundary line.
From inspecting the pillars, we meet the traditional leaders of this particular area. Seeing the Ghanaian military in full regalia had raised some concerns initially, but soon their mission was understood by these traditional leaders, who subsequently pledged their support to clear out the boundary demarcations. The final port of call is Leklebi Kame. Dufia of the area, Togbi Atachi V, says at least 6 of his chiefs from other areas have decided to be a part of this engagement. They had a list of concerns, including the closure of the borders, because their farmlands, among others, stretch over into Togo.
Our land extends to Kuma in the Republic of Togo, and also to Agome-Tomegbe in the Republic of Togo. We have farmlands, cocoa farms, coffee farms, palm plantations on these lands. But as we have it now, we are being prevented from visiting our farms. And even the community schools. We have pupils or students coming from the villages and townships that I have mentioned, Kametonu in particular, and other villages like Bume, Hime, and all those who know these places will know. We are asking respectfully for this visit to yield one major favor or one major fruit for this community. That is to ensure that our people who are trapped behind a barricade, our people in Kametonu, our citizens in Kametonu, should be given free access, free movement.
DCE for the area, James Etonam Flolu, had some answers, including a request for the community to bear with government as it deals with the pandemic.
I think once the borders are opened, we are not going to have such issues. While the main border issues are being addressed, I would urge the community to just help us. It is just for a short while. In no time, the border situation will be relaxed. Then we can live our life in peace. We don't want a situation where we relax and then the pandemic would hit us differently. You are aware, for some time now, we've never had cases of COVID in Afadjato South. But recently, like some 2 months ago, we recorded some few cases. So we need to be on the lookout.
But the Boundary Commission had a message for the traditional leaders not to engage in confrontations over boundary demarcations, but to rather refer such cases to the Commission, which it says have open channels of communication with their counterparts in the neighboring countries and can address the matter quickly and amicably.
This has been stated because of the complaints that we've received through the various security agencies and the local authorities. As part of our responsibility, we have also decided that wherever we go for an audit, we should interact with the local authorities and the people to sensitize them on how our boundary pillars are supposed to be protected. That some of you may have farmlands around the pillars. Make sure that you identify these pillars and the land boundary markings and protect them. Prevent anybody from uprooting it, prevent anybody from disturbing it. And when you identify that any particular pillar is being uprooted through natural causes, either erosion or any other thing, you inform the authorities so that they will inform the Boundary Commission to come in and replant or probably reconstruct that pillar. It's also important for you to understand that it is not a responsibility of the local community or the individuals around the boundary area to pick on issues with the other side. If there are observations that anybody has identified, you should inform the local authorities, the other security agencies, and the Boundary Commission is always ready to come. And those of you who live along the boundaries of Ghana and Togo should be able to live in peace with them. And that will be able to preserve the peace that Ghana has been able to preserve with Togo over the years. And in general, we'll be able to live in the sub-region of Africa in peace. We do not want any boundary issue to lead into a major dispute. That's why the Boundary Commission is there to intervene peacefully and amicably resolve any dispute or any concern that we may identify.
It says, at the end of it all, DCE Etonam Flolu is hopeful that there will be a roadmap to deal with the border movement and boundary demarcations after the work of the Commission is over.
We are all in favor of living in good condition with our neighbors. Togo, more or less, is like we are brothers and sisters. So we don't want anything to happen between the two parties. This issue about this part is Ghana, this part is Togo and all. I think that right after your work, certain guidelines will come out that will help us put all this issue to rest. Because as a matter of fact, you know, we have people who are border residents more or less move from Togo to Ghana on a daily basis. So I think your work is going to help us so much.
People who live in communities dotted along borders and boundaries usually know each other and they live peacefully. But there are times, especially when the border and the boundary lines are blurred, when it might just create some confusion. That confusion is what the Ghana Boundaries Commission says it is willing to stop. And it's not just doing that with security forces. It is hoping to engage the communities to deal with any issues that may come up amicably. The Commission has been here performing what it calls an audit of our pillars that clearly demarcates between Ghana and Togo to make sure that nothing happens. Behind me and behind this camera that you see is Ghana. Right behind me here is Togo. Gifty Andopia, JoyNews, Kametono, Togo.
And as you heard this morning, we've been talking to the Brigadier General himself, who tells us after this report yesterday, his outfit has been receiving several calls from DCEs or from MMDCs who are asking for their own solution to some of these boundary issues. We'll be keeping our eyes on that development. Join Evans Mensah at 5:30 today on radio on Joy 99.7 FM as he hosts the people involved for this conversation as well. On Sunday, we'll be observing World Malaria Day. This year's theme is focusing on drawing the line against malaria. We'll break it down. As we battle the global pandemic with the COVID-19 infections, it appears that very little is being heard of other conditions. There are calls for stakeholders to continue to prioritize safe delivery of life-saving malarial interventions and support the prevention of its infection. This afternoon, we're looking at how Ghana is faring. I have here in the studio Dr. Kezia Malm. She's Program Manager, National Malaria Control Program. Doctor, welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so let's begin with how Ghana is faring. How are we faring?
So in terms of malaria, Ghana is doing well in some aspects, and we are struggling with other aspects.
Okay. Let's start with the good news.
The good news is that over the years, we've been able to reduce the number of malaria deaths that we are seeing in the country. So if you look at the figures from 2012 to now, we've been able to reduce malaria death by over 80%. The exact figure is 89% reduction. In 2012, in our health facilities, we were recording around 2,800 deaths a year. Last year, recorded around 308 deaths. So that's been, good. Yes, we are seeing less people dying from malaria. So it's a big plus. In terms of the prevalence of malaria, so when you take children under 5, you take 100 people, the number of children who have the parasite in them to have reduced. In 2011, our survey showed that you get about 27 of those children being positive for malaria. To 2019, the results show that it has come down to 14, so it's almost half. We've seen a gradual improvement in the uptake of our interventions, though not at a rate that we would have allowed. Our targets are higher. For example, ITN ownership, insecticide-treated ownership, is about 70% of households who own ITNs. Our target was to hit above 80%. But for that, people own, and we still have those who don't sleep. So there's a gap.
They have it.
Yes, they are not using it. I think the bigger challenge is the number of malaria cases that we see in our health facilities, and that's the not too good part of the story. That's what we are struggling with.
Why is it not good when we have already recorded we've made some very good progress? So does it mean that the progress we recorded is not necessarily reflected in the cases in the hospital?
So there are different levels of progress. So we made progress in terms of death. And for any disease control, the first thing you want to do is that people don't die. So that's usually the first focus. That's where we push a lot, and that we are making progress. I mean, if you don't die and you're still alive, there is hope.
Exactly.
Yes. So as you get the death down, there's also should be focus on getting the cases down. What is happening is that we are not taking the interventions as we should, but unfortunately, if you get ill, because we have very effective medicines, if you come to the hospital early enough, then we are able to treat you so you don't die. And also because so many other diseases look like malaria, and we still come and think it's malaria.
And at a point, we understood that the COVID-19, that some of the symptoms were beginning to manifest as malaria. Maybe we can talk about that when we are done with your submission, so that we look at how that may have affected, the interventions that we put in so far. So do make the point you were making earlier.
Yes, I think I lost it. Yes,
I'm sorry, but I think that you were talking us through the successes,
yes,
and then the challenges. And I think you were done with the successes, and then
the challenge.
Yes. Us through
So
the
the challenge is that we are still seeing very high numbers in our health facilities. Last year, for instance, even in the face of COVID, where people feared coming to their health facilities, our suspected malaria cases were around 10 million. Of that, we confirmed about 5 million plus. So those are very high numbers of disease, and this disease will take you away from work. Generally, you will lose about 9 days due to malaria, not just because you wouldn't come to work, but you come to work and you are not that productive. Caretakers are losing work. We are losing to the economy. It's costing us about 6% of GDP in the sub-Saharan Africa, reduction in our GDP. So it is a challenge when it comes to the disease load. And that's something that we are hoping to work with everybody to bring down.
Okay. I think the link that you made with the symptoms that people were showing up with, which made me bring in the COVID-19, was that people were recording other diseases that looked like malaria. Help us understand the challenge there when people are recording diseases that are not malaria but look like malaria.
So malaria symptoms, we say usually they are non-specific, because you have a headache, you have a fever, you don't feel well. When you have any of the viral infections, you also have those symptoms. So it's non-specific. It's not like this is a symptom that when you see it's really malaria. So people come, and most of the time we have quite a number of viral infections, even including COVID. You realize that one of the things we do very well is to check if somebody has a fever at the various points. It doesn't necessarily mean it's COVID. It could be malaria. It could be a common cold that is starting. It could even be an ear infection, a urinary tract infection that is starting. So people confuse that. That is why we try to promote and say that if you have any symptoms, you feel unwell, please be sure it is tested and confirmed to be malaria. Because the sad part about it is, it may not be malaria, but you may miss the other diseases, and we'll get to know that one at a very late stage, and then you get complications or sometimes even die. We usually see that, especially with meningitis, when we have an outbreak and it's starting, people often treat as malaria until they've treated malaria, and the person is not getting
still not well. Yes. Interesting. I mean, I don't know how badly has COVID-19 affected our focus on dealing with malaria and putting in place the necessary interventions that would have helped us reduce the 5 million of cases that we recorded?
Yes, so malaria control program is part of the Ghana Health Service. So Dr. Patrick Abuaje is the head of it. And you realize that as a service, even though COVID came, it was challenging in the beginning, but we tried as much as possible to make sure that there is continuity of service for other interventions. So in the beginning, we couldn't undertake an intervention like distributing nets to schools because schools had closed. But as soon as the schools reopened and brought in JSS, we modified our strategy and still went in. So we had to do some modifications. We struggled in the beginning because you have health workers being sick and even being called to help with COVID, even though your core duty may be malaria. But eventually we found our feet. So on the whole, in terms of the interventions for malaria, we distributed our nets, we did our larval source management. When you go to the health facility as a pregnant woman, you'll be taken care of for your malaria preventive interventions as you should. It was a struggle, but we did it.
So were there any benefits that COVID brought us when it comes to our management or dealing with.
I think what COVID taught us is that we could do some things online and still get them done.
Okay.
So things that could have cost us, like meetings and trainings at the national level where there was internet access, we moved all those things online. And we were still successful.
It must have saved us some money too, no?
It did, but cost us at the other end, because then when it comes to the sub-national levels where internet wasn't good, you still had to go physically and get the things done. But I mean, if you needed to train a group of people, now you divide them up. So they have smaller groups, longer days. You have to provide personal protective equipment. So
okay, I understand that. Let's focus a bit more on this year's commemoration. What are we doing differently? What's the program like?
So this year, just like the other years, what we are doing is creating awareness and bringing more light onto the malaria control efforts. Because of COVID, we are unable to do the big debates and things like that we used to do in the past. So we are organizing more of webinars and symposia, and then press briefings. Okay. So that's what we'll be doing.
Have these programs proved effective over the period?
So I can speak for last year, because that's when we did the webinar instead. COVID did drown the awareness creation on malaria quite a lot last year.
Expectedly so.
Yes, but this year it's a bit better because COVID has been here for a while. We just had a webinar this morning. It was more for the academicians, the higher level people, and the patronage was good. And we are still talking about it. I think now we are beginning to realize that COVID has been here for a while. We need to take care of ourselves and prevent ourselves from getting COVID, but we also need to make sure that we don't die from other diseases. So we are all, the media is listening to us, they are talking about malaria, and so it's a bit better this year than last year.
Okay.
But it's never the same when you do a webinar as compared to if you do an outreach in a market.
Yeah.
Because the target group is different.
But I guess that with where we are now, we can still do some market, outreaches where you have one person wearing a mask and perhaps speaking to a megaphone. People will still hear the message.
Oh, the community education, that one, those things go on even for our interventions, okay, but not the gatherings at the market and the.
Okay, but the drawing the line, it's a bit that I don't understand. Can you help us understand what's the significance here when it comes to our fight against malaria?
So the challenge with malaria is sometimes we think it's an everyday disease. So it's normal. What we are trying to tell people that it's enough. It's time for us to say that we are drawing the line against malaria. We are no more going to let malaria continue to trouble us. We do what we have to do in terms of preventing malaria, and if we are sick, we take the right medication, we get tested. So we draw the line and we fight. It's like you're going to war.
Okay.
So you've drawn the line and say no more malaria, and we all actually not just say it, but mean it in what we do.
Is this translated into any other language? Because drawing the line, I don't know how the people who come from my grandmother's village, for example, will understand. I mean, I saw drawing the line and I didn't understand. And I say I'm a journalist and I didn't understand, of course. So how do we make sure that the messaging actually gets to the people?
So I guess you've given me another idea.
I'll bring an invoice. I will bring.
Yes, we didn't have it translated, okay, but it's something we can easily do.
I think we definitely should, because like I said, I saw it and I read it, but I didn't understand. But I have you, fortunately, to break it down for me. But then for the people down there who we are trying to target with this, they will understand.
Yes.
Okay. So what message does the malaria control program has for Ghanaians on this day as we look forward to Sunday for the commemoration?
So what we are saying is that malaria can kill, but it is a preventable and treatable disease. Please use your preventive intervention, sleep in an ITN. Pregnant women get your intermittent preventive treatment. If you're in an area we are doing indoor residual spraying or killing the mosquito babies like the larval source, please be supportive and accept And if you happen to feel unwell, get tested and treated so that we can get rid of malaria.
Okay.
And draw that line.
So how do we say draw the line in Chi? Well, I think we'll have to look for my colleagues, on Adom to help us understand this. And trust me, when they say it on Adom, not just the, discerning listeners here, as our target will hear, but everybody who prefers to, hear the local language will hear and benefit from it. I've been having this conversation with Dr. Kezia Mom. She's manager for the Malaria Control Program. Very insightful conversations we've had here. So COVID is here, yes, but malaria can also kill. So let's protect ourselves from it. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Now, about 285 residents have been displaced by a rainstorm at Alasankura, a suburb of Damongo in the West Gonja municipality. These include 145 children and 90 women in the community. Our Savannah regional correspondent, Isaac Nonya, has the story.
The injured are women, while 82 households were rendered homeless. Both public and private properties like buildings, metal containers, and shops were also hit, with some houses' roofs completely ripped off. But at the time JoyNews visited the community, many households have begun reconstruction, with few still counting their losses. The West Gonja Municipal Director of the National Disaster Management Authority, Adam Danvin, said the impact on the ground is very merciful and needs urgent attention.
Alasankura, when we got there the next day after the rainstorm, we realized that 2-3 houses completely will be ripped off. People that have 3 rooms, 4 rooms, it will be ripped off completely. It was just a mess when we got there. The people really need the support of the public, especially NADMO and the government of the day, because you will see that the people will be finding it very difficult to be able to put back shelter for themselves. And so I think that if serious help is needed, then the people of Alasankura and Hangalai are the people that they have to come to their aid and help them, so that they can also it can also bring smiles to the faces of the families that were affected at that area.
Some victims who were still reconstructing shared their plights with JoyNews. I said, why did you lose something in the course of this?
For now, I'm a hardware technician. I have some laptops in the room that I'm still working on, but I have to try and revive them for now. But I've not lost anything. It's only my zincs I've lost, then some wood, because I have to buy wood and some zincs.
I should come and check my machine. And when I got here, the whole roof was not there. The whole tint was removed from the machine side to a different side. We were just fortunate people were not in the compounds the tint laid on. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster. Yeah. But actually, the whole roof got opened.
Were some of the machines destroyed or damaged?
For now, we can't tell. But water got inside, so we have to remove the machines. There are some wires inside, so we have to remove everything out. So now there's no light, so we can't tell what happened. So if
the windstorm was really heavy.
Very, very heavy. Very, very heavy. Yeah, we were not even alone. We had some people, some of them, their houses even got down. Yeah, but for us, they're just the roof that got open.
Now, another rainstorm disaster has rendered about 700 residents from 3 communities homeless, with several properties worth thousands of cedis destroyed. The affected communities include Yape, Sankpala, and Kosong, all in the central Gonja district. Our Savannah regional correspondent, Isaac Nonya, with more.
According to the Central Gonja District Operation Officer of NADMO, Alhamdu Al-Hassan, officials from the district office have been on the ground assessing the level of destruction to enable them to reach out to the victims. Also, the 1-hour rainstorm saw the electricity supply cut off. Mr. Alhamdu Al-Hassan said the wires connecting the main transformer were cut as a result of the heavy impact of roofs that were ripped out from buildings.
Information from the assembly person from Yapi, around Yapi, about a windstorm disaster which occurred. I think around evening that it occurred. So we made our men to be on the ground have a look at the situation and then to take the valid information that we would need to see how they can be supported.
Roughly seen around,
yes.
What would you say is the impact?
In fact, it is not a small windstorm. It has been a big windstorm because as you can see, even it has affected electricity poles, and then some houses have been damaged. Schools are affected. Then those with some cannot even put up back their houses again.
The assemblyman for Yape electoral area, Idi Kamal, said today is a sad day in my community.
Today is a sad day in my community. It started yesterday around between 3 and 4 p.m. when the storm started. But whilst we were moving around, it started from the eastern side of the community. So the wind was blowing from that side. As I speak yesterday, many people's houses were ripped off. Schools have been ripped off. Stores, containers, market stores, and many people have been displaced. Others have to sleep in their neighbors' houses for the day to break, and then they'll come. It took more than 1 hour, and so it ended somewhere in the evening. And because the people, yesterday was Yape market day, most of them were in their market. They were not aware of what is happening in their homes. They thought that the havoc was happening at the market until they got to their various homes and they realized that their homes were hardly hit.
Mr. Idi Kamal stated that calls were made to both district and NADMO officers to come to the aid of the people.
We made call to NADMO, and then we also reported it to our district assembly. NADMO this morning, one of their officials came and he brought a paper. He said that we should take records. Some of his men are on the ground also taking those records. So we are appealing to all organizations that can come to the aid of our people. They should do that. We dearly need their help as at now.
Meanwhile, one of the victims, who was still recounting his losses, shared his ordeal with JoyNews.
The storm, the rain just started in the market, so everybody was running. People who even ran to attach others, it was by God's grace. Some were saved. This zinc, it crossed over there behind the road. Look at Pat's line there. Yeah. Look at one line behind this lorry, far away from here. It divided and scattered. This tree, some trees have fallen. Some other 3 houses, other 1 bedrooms.
So at the time this thing happened, where were you?
I was in the next building.
There was nobody inside?
Yeah, there was nobody inside.
So maybe they were playing football at that time, it would be a disaster.
Yeah. And then not that alone, not because of the football alone, but I also put my tents there.
Isaac Nonya with that report. Some 16 excavators believed to be used by illegal miners in the wanton district and wanton destruction and pollution of rivers have been seized by the Western Regional Security Council. The security team made up of Operation Vanguard, Immigration, National Security with support from the Menfi West District Assembly stormed some illegal mining site as Samraboy in an anti-galamsey operation dubbed Clean Water. Western Regional Minister Kwabna Otreda Komensa, who led the operation, managed to seize 16 of the excavators being used to mine in the Tano River. More in this report.
Scenes of destruction and degradation were visible from miles away. Abandoned pits and mining settlements dot the road leading into what is left for the once vast arable cocoa farm. After navigating through the dangerous terrain of open pits filled with water, we arrived at the mining settlement directly on the River Tano. The Tano River, which runs through these cocoa farms, has turned muddy with no sign of life.
What beats my mind is that this operation they've been doing, illegal operation, is close to the river, the Tano River. Look at how bad turbid it has become. So when this one goes all the way to the south, it becomes difficult to control. So this is not even those who are directly sitting on top of the river, but these are people whose actions are just too close to the river. And what beats my mind is that they keep pumping their waste into the river with all the chemicals and the stuff, and I believe that is not the way to go.
Tons of polytanks and barrels filled with diesel were found on the site, but illegal miners were nowhere to be found, as the task force believes someone has given them information of their coming. The vast cocoa farm depicts scenes of cocoa trees cut and buried in mud. Shamfans have been left in the pits by the illegal miners.
So this is not the first and last we are doing. We'll also be going to other sites unannounced and we'll be arresting as many people as we can get hold of. Today we are doing 3 operations, one in Takwa area, one in Elembele. Elembele, we've been able to arrest 4 people. We're sending them to Sekendi, and we are sending the excavators also to Asenkegwa and take some of the equipment all the way to Accra. So we want people to understand that we are going to fight this menace to the last, to make sure that Ghanians can live in peace and have water to drink. If you look at how bad this river has become turbid, it shows that we have to spend more money as a country to correct it. And I believe that is not the best way to go. We'll be able to get water, good water for our people, if we continue this type of action. So we are working on, and we'll be moving on to other places. And we'll be coming back to check and making sure that what we've succeeded in doing today will last, so that this business of people illegally mining our gold doesn't go on. If these things are happening on the lands of chiefs and they are not reporting, I mean, nobody can tell me that they are not aware. They are aware. Because if you look around, you can see cocoa farms. So the cocoa farmers are also selling their cocoa. And naturally, the chief will hear that people are selling their cocoa. And I believe that even cocoa board, they should even let them give us indication as to what is happening, so we can also chase them up and make sure that we can secure these places for the good of the country. And so on. So I believe that the chiefs should now consider themselves as real partners in the fight against illegal mining.
Municipal Chief Executive for Amenfi West, George Edri, assures they are going to arrest anyone connected to such illegalities.
We are requesting outboard motors. No, the Vatano is just here, and their waste goes straight to the Vatano. We are requesting outboard motors permanently on the Vatano to patrol. But these people, though they are not permanently on the Vatano, but their waste goes to the Vatano. Whilst we are patrolling, we will see everybody who is along the river body.
The Western region is most likely to battle acute water shortage if illegal mining continues on its water bodies, as the Ghana Water Company has already confirmed the difficulties they are encountering in providing potable water to residents. For Joy News, in Athalia Kwansa, Samra Boy.
Well, that's a typical picture of just what the Ghana Water Company has to go through to provide the water that we drink in our homes. Now, residents and electronic money vendors in the OT regional capital, Dambai, say the poor services rendered them by telcos in the area is negatively affecting their business and other official communications. Currently, network connectivity in the area could go off for hours or even days. This, the residents say, is affecting productivity. They're calling on service providers to improve upon their service so that it will enhance their business transactions. Peter Seno is our correspondent.
Cuts in mobile phone network connectivity in the OT region is a rampant phenomenon, with some of the disruptions lasting at least a week. Residents who spoke to JoyNews say this is affecting their businesses and productivity at work. Here is Francis, a mobile money vendor.
The network is very bad here, especially on Mondays. Mondays, this is market day here in Dambai. Mondays, you'll be there and nobody will tell you anything before you realize network is off. And when this happens, there are two things here. You, the vendor, you lose. What I mean here is that sometimes you would instruct or you issue command, cash out. It will go all right. before you realize, it will not be deducted from the subscriber's phone, and then you will be at a loss. The person will go. At the end of the day, you go to the house trying to reconcile the figures and all that, and then you wouldn't find who exactly to contact. And when the network is off, you are there. You are just there. You don't know what to do. Don't forget that the money you use to do this business may not be your personal money. So as the network is not available or it breaks, you are losing by the day. Every minute of network instability means a lot to the business.
Liberty works with the Oti Regional Coordinating Council and shares how the network situation is affecting his schedules at work.
What I do, I coordinate all the activities of the HR in the region with my boss. And then most of the times, when we needed information, we need to, call them through phone. And then where my office is located, as if it is not part of, the region, there is no network. There is no network at all. So you have to look for a vantage point and then place your phone there. And then that is where you can get the network to make that call. I don't know if it is the case that where the mast is erected is far away from the regional coordinating council, then we are pleading with MTN or the other network providers to come closer to us so that we can get access to network, because it's really, worrying the works of the ORCC.
Isaac Mensah is another mobile money vendor. Apart from the network challenges, he laments the absence of any major office of any of the service providers at the regional capital to resolve challenges.
And our regional capital.
This is the regional capital, and what worries me most is that there is no single office for the telcos here. One would have to travel to Ketekrachi or Nkwanta to fix any minor challenge, and we would not spend less than 50 Ghana cedis. This is a big challenge to us.
50 cedis, they will say, now so be obi ni bi kitwe bi na ha no now so no wa boka hweka obaba kwaba enti
various security heads in the regional capital who would either have to place a call or file a report to a superior officer have complained off camera about the effect of the mobile network instability on the operations in the regional capital.
Peter Seno is our OT regional correspondent. Now, the election campaign to replace Angela Merkel as the leader of Germany kicked into high gear this week, with the major parties now set with their chancellor candidate. It has been a bumpy ride so far for Merkel's Conservative Party, and it might not get any easier for them. We'll get more now on what could be a historic election for Germany with William Glucroft, political correspondent for our partners DW in Berlin. William, what happened this week that marks it as the unofficial start of the election campaign?
Yes, that's right. You could call this week an unofficial start to the campaign election season here in Germany, the election being in September, because this week the two leading parties in the polls, the CDU, that's Angela Merkel's Conservatives, and the Green Party, a more progressive party, both settled on who their chancellor candidate is going to be, who's going to lead their party into elections in September, and theoretically, if their parties win, become the chancellor. Now, the Greens picked Annalena Baerbock. She's a fairly young woman, 40 years old, with experience as a member of the German parliament, the Bundestag, whereas the Conservatives, Angela Merkel's party, picked an older white man, Armin Laschet, the leader of his state in Western Germany, the most populous state in Germany. And the two really reflect very different Germanys. Armin Laschet, a rather traditional center-right politician, been around for a long time. Annalena Baerbock, something of a new, fresh face in Germany that represents change, represents a lot of new policies that, if her Green Party were to win, could be quite effective in changing Germany rather dramatically. Now, it's important to note that Germany is a parliamentary system. The individual candidates don't really officially matter, but of course they have great symbolic weight as to the type of people that the parties put forward as their faces for this campaign.
So what do the parties' candidate selections tell us about where the parties themselves stand in the race?
Well, it really couldn't be any more different. The union, as it's called, the CDU-CSU, that's Angela Merkel's Conservative Party, with their smaller sister party from the state of Bavaria, they have to agree on a common candidate to run nationwide. And although they are a huge party and an established party, a professional party, they've been nothing but unprofessional in the last few weeks. A lot of squabbles, a lot of internal division. The union is nothing but disunited right now. And a lot of that happened in the public space. We all saw it happen. Whereas the Greens, which has long been a small protest party, they've been quite professional, putting on a united front, a common face to show the public in their decision about backing their chancellor candidate, Annalena Baerbock, whereas there was a lot of fighting going on in the CDU. And that's really reflective of politics in general in Germany right now, where Angela Merkel's conservatives are very divided, especially when it comes on the direction the country needs to take with the pandemic. And that is reflected in the polls, where there's been a massive surge in support for the Greens, and the CDU, the conservatives, have been slipping.
So finally, how does this election stand to change Germany?
Well, if the Greens really were to win this election in September, it would be the first time in post-war history that Germany is not led by one of the major parties, the center-right or the center-left. And since they are so pro-environmentalist for the largest economy in Europe, it would mark a huge change in policy for where Germany goes and where Europe goes in a post-Merkel era.
William Glocroft is political correspondent with our partners DW. William, thank you. I want to take another quick break. When I return, I'll tell you about some incident at Legon. Manuel Quantin will be joining us. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. Now, uneasy calm at the University of Ghana. There is an uneasy calm at the University of Ghana after a man believed to be a national service person allegedly fell off from the 4th floor on Friday morning. The victim of the accident, or the incident, which occurred around 1:45 a.m. at the Mensa Sabah Hall, has been identified only as Wahab Abdullahi. Reports say the occupant of the room had loud bangs on the door and assumed hall authorities were hunting for purchase. Wahab, who is currently receiving treatment at the Legon Hospital, is said to have fallen off the balcony while attempting to hide over fears of being sacked. Management of the university has called for calm while police proceeds with investigations. Manuel Quantin is joining me with more. Manuel, what do we know? What's the story here? Was he not supposed to be there in the first place?
Well, Gifty, what we know is that this particular person that we're talking about was involved in the accident is a former student, and indeed is a national service person. And he went to visit his former roommate on Thursday evening. But it turned out the visit dragged a bit and then entered into the night. So he was unable to leave, as we were told by eyewitnesses and other occupants of that particular room. And so just about midnight, they had loud bangs on the door of the room. And the rule at the University of Ghana is that, people who are not legal residents of the halls are not allowed in the halls beyond 12 a.m. And indeed, because of the COVID-19 restrictions and other interventions that have been laid out by the university management, these regulations are being enforced to the letter. And so these loud bangs sort of prove the occupants of the room, who at the time, in this instance, were harboring somebody who would be considered an illegal resident of the hall, in this time, an illegal occupant of that particular room. And so he attempted, hiding in the balcony of that particular room. And for viewers who may not know the University of Ghana, this happens in the men's Asaba Hall annex. And so these annexes have rooms that are occupied ordinarily by 4 people in a room, and it has a balcony attached to the room. And so Wahab Abdullah was told is the name of the victim, attempted to hide the balcony, while his other colleagues who were in the room attempted to, whoever was, knocking at the door, in the hope that if it was the hall authorities who were doing their routine checks, would have been able to escape being inside, because it was after midnight at the time. So this happened, and the occupants of the room checked, and it wasn't actually the hall authorities. Upon their return, they found out that he was now lying on the ground. So he fell from the 4th floor, the ground floor, up onto the 4th floor. He fell all the way down. So he was rushed to the Legon Hospital for treatment.
Manuel, what's his state at the moment? Do we know?
Well, we know that he was transferred to undertake an MRI scan, which he has done. There were attempts to actually transfer him to the Kolebo Accident Center, but we do not have confirmation of his movement to that particular facility at this point. What we know officially is that he's still on admission at the University of Ghana hospital, that's the Legon Hospital. And so that's essentially what it is. But this has sent some sort of, chills down the spines of a lot of the students who've been telling us that they are a bit spooked and, anxious about this particular incident, because they do not really know what might have caused his falling, whether he was pushed by somebody, whether he was possessed by, because he was just going to hide at the balcony. So the balcony at the University of Ghana, even though not a really big room, it's quite spacious to be able to contain one person without he having to struggle for space.
Yeah.
And so they are still battling to understand how this particular incident happened. And that's causing a bit of anxiety on the university campus. But what we know is that the Dean of Students at the university, Professor Godfred Alpha-Boxing, has been urging the students and calling on them to remain calm, even as the Legon police takes over the case and continues its investigation.
Okay.
And so there's an assurance that has been given to the students that whatever comes out of the case, they shall be told about.
Manuel, thank you very much for that update. Manuel Cranting there. Now, 3 2020 Volta Regional Best Cocoa Farmers have finally received their prizes 5 months after the National Farmers Awards ceremony was held in Techiman in the Bono East region. This follows a story by JoyNews' Fred Kwame Asari, which chronicled what the awardees described as a scheme to deny them of their prizes. Nonetheless, the prizes presented to the awardees at the Volta Regional Offices of Cocoa Board in Hohoe were short of 3 items. More in this report.
Ali Malik was adjudged the 2020 Volta Regional Best Cocoa Farmer. The 2020 Volta Regional Best Most Promising Young Farmer went to Samuel Ameko, while Barbara Aiti won the 2020 Volta Regional Best Most Enterprising Female Cocoa Farmer. Unfortunately, they were unable to lay hands on their prizes after the awards ceremony was held in Techiman in November 2020. However, Cocoa Board made available some of the items to be presented to the awardees after JoyNews highlighted the delay in handing over the prizes to the respective winners. The items presented included 3 tricycles, 3 sets of protective clothing, 3 dual-purposed motorized slashers, insecticides, fungicides, and face masks. Nonetheless, according to the awardees, the insecticides and fungicides were short in quantity, while the motorized sprayers and cartons of chocolate promised them were not part of the items presented.
Really fulfilling as a farmer. We've actually come here today. We've been given these items that we promised. We thank the Ghana Cocoa Board for what we've received. But then unfortunately enough, that these items have been delivered to us, but unfortunately some of the items are still not, it's not still up to. So we're looking forward that the few items that I know in the consignment will be brought to us so we can help us expand our farms, especially the motor spraying machines. Apart from that, we can only say thank you to your election, what's it called, Joy FM, for raising this issue for us and making sure that this item, as soon as your news was aired, we've received a result and this item has been released to us. And as you can see, the items are here. We're taking them back to our farms and we are hoping that we can expand beyond what we are doing currently.
We have received the items. The Volta Regional Manager in charge of Cocoa Health and Extension Division, Linus Kofi Fiakeye, explained a report will be sent to the national headquarters for possible redress.
We went to pick the items from Accra. So these are the items given to us. We really didn't know because we are not given the list of items. They just asked us to come for the items.
For clarity's sake.
It is now we are seeing the list. I have not seen the list of the items. It is not the farmers brought the list. It has brought, we sent our pick the counter to go and pick the items from Accra. So they went and came back 3 times. Once they took 2 tricycles and the other one, which were offloaded this morning. So the 2 tricycles were offloaded the day they came. That was Thursday, and this one this morning. Yeah, we will draw the management attention to it. No, it is today we are hearing it, so we are going to write officially, draw management attention to it, and they will come back. They will send it back.
The awardees are hoping the rest of the items will be handed over to them in earnest. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Hohwe.
And before we go into sports, later tonight, Aisha Ibrahim will sit with Nana SKB Asante, who's the paramount chief of Asante Asokori. Here, excerpt of that interview.
There's one complication which has to be identified. The Courts Act has said that the High Court has no jurisdiction to settle chieftaincy disputes.
Yes.
But the High Court has a jurisdiction to exercise supervisory authority through prerogative writs over inferior adjudicating bodies, including judicial committees. However, if you look at the practice, you see that something which should proceed from the Traditional Council to the Regional House of Chiefs, the National House of Chiefs, to the National House of Chiefs has been complicated because there has been a reference to a High Court. And the High Court then intervenes and tries to, settle it in a way which is not appropriate, and then there's an appeal.
Even though it doesn't have jurisdiction.
Yes, they don't have jurisdiction. They do it by way of supervisory jurisdiction. And that can complicate. It can go through a High Court all the way to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, and then it still has to come through the judicial committee system. So these things have to be looked at. So that you see that certain chieftaincy disputes are protracted because of the involvement of the High Court.
SKB Asante there. You get to hear his story and what his thoughts are when it comes to land management there. Gary Al Smith is standing by with sports. That's it for your pause today. Have a great weekend. There's more news at myjoyonline.com. My name is Gifty Andropia. Appreciate your time.